Hello, everyone. Pastor Marvin Sapp, finally confirming what so many had suspected, has created a wave of conversation across the gospel community and beyond. Because for years there have been whispers, quiet discussions, and unspoken questions about the life of a man whose voice has soundtracked the faith journeys of millions, whose songs like Never Would Have Made It and The Best in Me have carried people through heartbreak, healing, and hope, and yet whose personal life has often been as layered, complex, and deeply human as the lyrics he pours into his music. And now, with his candid confirmation, the veil has been lifted on a truth that people felt but were waiting for him to put into his own words. To understand the weight of this moment, we must remember that Marvin Sapp has never been a stranger to scrutiny or speculation. After losing his beloved wife MaLinda in 2010, he was thrust into the painful position of raising 3 children alone while simultaneously maintaining a public ministry and career that demanded constant output. And while fans admired his resilience, many wondered privately how he was really managing behind the scenes, whether the strength he projected was masking unspoken struggles, and whether there were deeper realities about his personal choices, relationships, and even his place in the church world that he had not yet acknowledged publicly. Over the years, suspicions grew about whether he was pursuing new relationships, about how fame and ministry were being balanced, and about whether the vulnerability he expressed in music truly reflected what was happening in his private life. And Marvin, while never entirely denying the speculation, often sidestepped direct confrontation, choosing instead to let his art and preaching speak louder than rumors. But now, with his confirmation, he has shattered the silence, admitting that much of what people assumed had some grounding in truth. That he is not the flawless figure many placed on a pedestal, that he has wrestled with loneliness, that he has pursued relationships since his wife's passing, that fame and ministry do not always align perfectly with private battles, and that being a pastor, a father, and an artist has forced him to carry weights that sometimes seemed unbearable. In his confession, Marvin made it clear that he is not interested in appeasing gossip, but in freeing himself from the unrealistic expectations that church culture and celebrity often impose. And he spoke directly to the danger of idolizing leaders, reminding the world that pastors are people too, capable of mistakes, vulnerable to temptation, and constantly in need of grace, just like the congregations they lead. His words resonated deeply because they validated what so many already felt, that behind every polished sermon and every powerful performance is a man who has cried in silence, who has doubted his path, and who has questioned whether the world would still love him if they knew the whole truth. This confirmation, though, is not a scandal. It is a liberation, because by speaking plainly, Marvin has taken control of the narrative, refusing to let rumors define him, and instead allowing authenticity to guide how he is remembered. Fans and church members alike have reacted with a mixture of shock, empathy, and even relief, because in his honesty they see not the fall of a hero, but the rise of a more human, relatable leader who embodies the very message of grace he has preached for decades. For 30 to 40 minutes we can sit with the gravity of this moment, unpacking Marvin Sapp's journey from young gospel singer to chart-topping artist, from grieving widower to single father, from public figure to man reclaiming his humanity, and we can reflect on how his confirmation ties into larger themes of faith, resilience, image, and the crushing weight of expectations in the church. Marvin Sapp's legacy will always be tied to the anthems that gave people hope in their darkest hours, but now it will also be tied to his decision to finally be transparent about his own struggles, proving that testimony is not just about triumphs but about truth, and that sometimes the most powerful sermon a pastor can preach is the one where he admits that he too needs saving grace every single day. Thanks for watching.